NXT starts off with Jada Parker versus Jasmine Nix. This match ended up being official due to last week, due to Lash Legend and Jada Parker confronting JC Jane and Fatal Influence trying to go after her NXT Women's Championship. JC Jane wants, of course, to take care of Jada Parker and Lash Legend, so she ends up getting Fallon Henley and Jasmine Nix, each one of them to have one-on-one matches between each of Jada Parker and Lash Legend. Jasmine goes after Jada, and Fallon Henley ends up going after Lash later in the show. Jada Parker picks up the victory. This match was very quick, very short. This was like a 5-minute match, which I enjoyed. This match did not need to be a 15-minute match. And that's really it. Now, I am a bit confused by this only because later in the show, we end up getting a segment with Jada Parker that had nothing to do with Fatal Influence, which was very confusing. So I don't know if they're still going in the direction of her going after JC Jane, or they're going to do the thing where she's in multiple stories at one time. So it was a bit confusing. Hopefully they continue the story of her being in the NXT title picture, but the segment later on in the show was a bit confusing, and I was a bit confused on why Jada Parker was involved, but we'll see how this plays out. Afterwards, we end up getting Javon Evans. He ends up cutting a promo mentioning Undertaker's advice of going after the big dog. And then you get Trick Williams comes out, and he's assuming that Javon Evans was mentioning him when referring to the big dog. He ends up making, of course, him holding the TNA championship, mentioning his NXT resume. And then you end up getting him saying that Javon Evans isn't ready and that he shouldn't challenge him. Javon Evans ends up mentioning that he wasn't talking to Trick Williams, he was mentioning Obafemi. Then Trick Williams ends up feeling insulted. It ends up saying that maybe he should go after Oba and become a two shall hold both titles, the TNA Knockouts champion and the not Knockouts champion. I'm thinking of the women's title, the TNA World title and the NXT championship. Javon Adams basically ends up saying that Trick Williams should get in his way of chasing the NXT championship. Then you get Wesley. He comes out, defends Trick Williams, and ends up saying that he's going to make sure that Javon Evans can't even get close to Trick Williams. Offering a match. Then you get High Rise and Trick Williams basically ends up jumping Javon Evans. This sets up a match later in the show between Wesley and Javon Evans. So I like what they did. I like what they're doing here. I like the story that they're telling here of Javon Evans chasing after that NXT championship. I like that they're making him struggle, having him face some adversity. I like what they're doing here. I like what they're doing here, slowly building this up. Because NXT right now, they need a story like this. They need a baby face chasing after that heel, going after that dominant force. They need that story because that's what NXT has been missing for a long time. Since Trick Williams won the NXT championship, after he won the NXT championship against Ilya Dragunov, they have been missing that story that makes you want to watch every single week. They have the star power, they have the people that are interesting, but they don't have the story. Ever since Trick Williams won that title off of Ilya Dragunov, NXT has been missing that story, that driving story, that story that makes you want to go watch the show every week, like the Bloodline, you know what I'm saying, like Carmelo and Trick, their friendship, the Lyra Valkyria, Tatum Paxley, etc. They don't have that story. So hopefully this is the story that can, really bring NXT back, to really bring that interesting feel to make you want to watch this show. Afterwards, though, we end up getting Charlie Dempsey versus Tavian Heights. If Tavian wins, he ends up leaving No Quarter Catch Crew. Solid match. Tavian Heights picks up the victory, so he is now on his own. I would say I'm interested to see where this goes, but I'm really not due to what they did with Miles Bourne. I'm not really disappointed because I kind of expected it, but I was kind of hoping to a degree that they start building other stars in that men's division, because the men's division is very lacking. But Tavian Heights is on his own. I like Tavian Heights a lot. I think he has a lot of potential, but due to what they're doing with Miles Bourne right now, with him being in a death storyline for whatever reason, with Lexus King, the fact that that's what they got for Miles Bourne tells me that they don't really have a plan for nobody in this faction. So yeah, I don't really have high hopes, but we'll see how this plays out. We get Blake Monroe. She cuts a promo. She ends up basically mentioning Jordan Grace. I was about to say JC Jane. She ends up mentioning why she attacked Jordan Grace and ends up saying that Jordan Grace is just not. She's a background character. She's not a superstar. She's not a star. She isn't ready to go after the NXT championship, and that she's a background character. She's an extra. She ends up showing photos of her before she ends up getting super muscular. Then she ends up mentioning that she's not a superstar, and she ends up saying that she's the definition of what a real superstar should look like. Then you get Lola Vice, of all people, making her appearance. She comes out And then you end up getting Jada Parker. She comes out. Lola Vice was mentioning how she's a real definition of a superstar. Then you end up getting Jada Parker coming out, ends up mentioning how that she doesn't need help in order to rise to superstardom, that she's a superstar on her own. Then, if I'm not mistaken, Kalani Jordan comes out, confronts Blake Monroe, challenge her, issues a match for next week. Blake Monroe accepts, and then she ends up. Then this leads to a brawl between all four women, where Blake is attacking Kalani. Then you have Lola Vice and Jada Parker going back and forth for whatever reason. So it looks like we're reuniting that Lola Vice and Jada Parker feud for whatever reason, even though you took months away from that storyline. And I don't understand why, due to Jada Parker is feuding with Fatal Influence. So, bit confusing there. Then you have Blake Monroe feuding with Kalani, which I don't mind because it looks like Jordan Grace is going to be out for a few weeks. So it makes sense for why they're doing that storyline. I'm fine with this. Even though it doesn't make that much sense, I'm cool with it as long as this is a sign of them pushing the other women. If this is a sign that they're finally going to have Jada Parker, Lola Vice, Kalani consistently on TV, I don't mind this setup. Even though it doesn't make much sense, I don't mind if this means they're going to continue to push these women on weekly television. Now we end up getting Lash Legend versus Fallon Henley. We end up getting an interference from Nia Jax, which was very confusing, but I don't mind it at all. Nia Jax interferes, costs Lash Legend the match. Fallon Henley picks up the victory. So it looks like we're going into a Nia Jax Lash Legend feud, which I actually don't mind. Now, Lash Legend these past few weeks has constantly been bringing up the fact that she constantly eliminated Nia Jax these past few weeks, so that's why Nia Jax attacked her. I don't mind this actually. I think this is really good. I think this has a lot of potential, especially this could really elevate Lash Legend, her beating Nia Jax. I like the idea of this. I think this could go a lot of ways. Now, I am hoping that this is a feud that actually lasts a bit. I do not want this to be a short term thing. I hope they actually build upon this feud. Have this be like a good 2 to 3 month program. Because again, NXT is lacking stories. They have the talent, they don't have the stories. They don't have the consistent stories that make you want to go back and continue to watch. So hopefully, this could be one of them. So I'm very interested to see how this plays out. We get Javon Evans versus Wesley. This was a really good match. Really fun, entertaining match. You got two of the best in-ring performers in NXT. This was going to be a good match. Javon Evans picks up the victory, but then after the match, you end up getting Trick Williams and Ova all having like a bit of a stare down. Trick Williams is on commentary. This is good. I'm loving the fact that they're revisiting this triple threat, this feud, because this feud towards Stand and Deliver was great. So I'm hoping they can recreate the magic, because again, they need the story. They need the story that's going to drive fans to want to go back and constantly watch NXT. Hopefully this is it. And I love the idea of Javon Evans going at the Obafemi, because I think he's the perfect option to dethrone him. Plus, you could build this for months. Now, it doesn't need to be a 6-month story, but you could build this up for like 2 to 3 months, have Javon Evans struggle, dethrone Oba. I like this idea. So I'm hoping that this story can execute, because the main event scene, the men's division in general, needs a lot of help, and we need this story. We need this story to work. Then we get the main event, Santino versus Ethan Page for the North American Championship. This was fine for what it was. It was a fun, enjoyable match. Ethan Page picks the victory. That's really it. Overall show, very mid. I'm just gonna be honest. The show is mid, but it has a lot of bright spots that can lead into good television. That's the only positive of it. Even though the show was mid, there was story progression that can lead to a lot of good television later on. Unlike with Raw yesterday, but NXT did a good job of having, even though it was a mid show, they had story progression that can lead into better stories later on. So that's one thing I will give them praise for. Overall, it was a mediocre show, but there was things I like. You guys let me know your thoughts, opinions down below. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. But yeah, that's it.